Alrighty, hello and welcome to the MARZ live stream. I'm here by myself today, so we're going to be doing some Blender stuff. Haven't gotten into Blender in a while. I've been having some technical issues back here in the studio, so I think I have everything fixed. Last week was, or I guess the week before last, was pretty smooth, so hoping that will stay the case. As you may have noticed, today is not Thursday, today is Friday, and it is 5 o'clock. We have changed the time of our live stream, hopefully in preparation for just having a little bit more production time earlier in the day. Usually we have MARZ drop-in from 3 to 6 on Thursday, so we've moved it to Friday so that we have some little extra time to do some planning and pre-production stuff for our streams. It's going to stay looking pretty much the same for now, but you might notice a few differences here and there. I'm hoping that we can have some more guests on the stream. It's always really fun. Kind of just expand it a little bit. So keep an eye out for updates there. So a few weeks ago, Cory and I were looking at some graphics that all were built around using text and sort of creating cool graphic design around text, like 3D text. So I thought that we would take a look at some of Blender's capabilities when it comes to creating stuff like that. So yeah, I guess we'll jump right into it. Let me switch over. Of course, I'll be running the stream in the background, so if I go silent for a minute, I'm probably just looking for my correct shot here. All right. So here we are. Here's Blender. This is version 3.41, I believe. Yep. So should be the newest version, unless they've just in the past few weeks updated. So as always, I'm just going to start us off with a clean scene, delete all our defaults, the cube, light, and camera. And then I'm going to go straight to adding in a new text object. So there's a specific type of mesh for this. The cool thing with these is that you actually get to type. So instead of the normal edit mode that you would get with any kind of just basic mesh, you're able to, in edit mode, of course, you can normally move around vertices and whatnot. But hold on, let me bring up the chat here just in case. I'll put it right, whoops. There we go. So like I was saying, normally, edit mode, you can move vertices around and stuff like that. But with the text tool, you can actually type like a normal typewriter kind of thing, a normal like word processor. So yeah, this is the default text that it gives you. There is a special menu, a special icon for the object data properties, which applies to all different things. It just depends on what you have selected. This little green icon will change. Like if you have an armature, it's a little, there's actually two for an armature. There's a like a bone properties and also a armature properties thing. So there's two, but with the text, it's this little green A. So you see all of our options here. Let's get a good look at this. You have things like your resolution, you can change. 12 is kind of, you can see where that's affected mostly in your rounded edges and stuff like that. So with this, we can get away with a lot, depending on the font you're using. This is the default font here. So I'll show you how to add in more fonts. It doesn't actually, I hope that maybe one day they update this, but to my knowledge, yeah, unless I'm missing something, you only get your, okay, you can add all of your like system fonts are in here. You just have to go to the file browser this little icon, and you can pick out which fonts you want. I did actually download some. You can download free fonts, usually free for it. Just make sure to check the licensing. That's one thing with fonts, like everything, they're usually licensed whether they can be used like for commercial use or not. Of course, this is all for educational use, so I downloaded a few. One of the sites I like is that 1001 Fonts. You can find a whole bunch of random stuff, but I kind of wanted something, and there may be some in the system fonts. I didn't actually dig through and look, but I don't believe this is actually all of them. I'm very pampered using Canva, because Canva has a bunch of fonts built in. So like if I was using Photoshop or something, like Comic Sans would be good. What I'm looking for is something a little more like bubbly for this particular effect that I'm going for. Comic Sans would work, but I did actually download some. So I put them here on the desktop, and you can actually see the little preview, which is nice. So you can just as easily bring these in. So let's try out this Flubber one first. And then you just add it in, and there it goes. You can, of course, later on go in and like sculpt these to what you like, but I figured I'd just find a font that was close enough. So this should give me a better starting point. So I've added in the font. You can add in things for the bold and italics, but I don't really know why you'd want to do that. Changing the regular one works just fine. Can bring that down. There's just some other, actually, well, I guess we can change size, but we can do that manually. Sheer is, of course, the tilt that the text has on it, but I don't typically do a whole lot of editing in here, besides using, if we go, it's actually not in the font category, it's in the geometry category here. There is the offset, which kind of like scales it up and down. Of course, this works better with certain fonts. It works terrible with this one. But the main thing is the extrude here. So you could do this back in once we convert it to an actual object, but this kind of automatically does it for us, and we don't have to worry about it later. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of extrude here, and then you can also taper. So if I use, I guess I don't have a taper object in here. It's a little bit more advanced, but you could use, I think anything like this would work, I believe. If I can get it selected here. No, it does not let me. Let's see, I don't think I can use a cube either. There's a certain type of object, and I'm forgetting what. I think we need like a curve. Huh. I guess not. Anyways, what I'm looking for is just, I want to add a bevel so you can round off edges to things, which is just kind of there by default. So this is where like the offset could come in handy. So you can just bring down the offset a little bit, bring up the roundedness, although starts to get a little bit weird. So we're gonna do some of this in edit mode, but that looks decent for now. Of course, you can affect the resolution. I really don't need that much. I'm gonna keep this fairly low. It doesn't seem like we need that. One thing to note with the fonts that you're using, on that website, and there's probably some system fonts too that are like this, but like anything that's really sort of more of a creative font, more like, let me actually show you, like here we go. So something like this top one here would definitely not work with this. I think you'd run into a bunch of issues with the edges here. So you definitely want to stick to something that has just like this sort of like flat shading to it, because some of these really go all out. Like I don't think this font might work. It's not too complicated. These ones would definitely be weird because you just end up with a bunch of lines. So definitely stay away from those if you want this to work correctly. So you can do a few other things in here. Oh, this is probably more or less what I was looking for here. Let's try this again. Take this object. No, it doesn't seem to want to use a curve. I guess it's a different thing that I'm thinking of. So let's not do that. But the cool one is the profile here. In this one, you can actually customize like how you want the edges to be. So this works really great if you want to keep that sort of almost like a stamp kind of look, or like a chiseled edge sort of thing. You can really define, if we bring up our resolution here, you can see that you can get a really cool edge on these. If you're planning on keeping, of course I've got to have to fix that issue there, but if you wanted to, you could sort of keep that rigid look to your text. But I'm planning on like making this all smooth, so I'm not gonna worry about that. I probably shouldn't even put a bevel on here because I'm gonna be smoothing it out later, and this is probably adding a lot of unnecessary geometry. And of course my offset is sort of broken, so I'm gonna leave it at the default. I just wanted to show you that that stuff is there. I think that's a lot of the, there's like spacing, so which is nice. Some of these would definitely could use some character spacing, like if you had them overlapping or anything like that. I may actually add a little bit of spacing just so I can more easily divide these up into separate pieces, because I probably want to do every letter as a separate thing. I'll show you why in a minute. You can also add text boxes. I don't really use any of these settings. Yeah, so this is as much as I think I'm going to actually do with the text tool. I may actually check to see if I can get away with a lower resolution. 3 is not too bad. This you can change to fill either the front, back, or both. And right now, by default, it's just at the both. Otherwise, it would be like this. And you could probably get some cool results out of that. Some neat little like ribbons if you wanted to add physics to them. But I'm going to keep it filled on both sides. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So what we can do is up in the object mode here, or the object drop down, you can convert this into an actual mesh. So of course right now, if I go back into edit mode, I'm just gonna be able to type, and that's not what I want. Hopefully this is actually coming through okay. I see that my little let's see, I see that I'm having some internet issues. Hold on, let me double check this. Nope, I think we're back. We just dropped a whole bunch of frames, so I'm sorry if that was... Let me set this output a little bit lower. Maybe that'll help. Okay. We're still on 9 at least. Still trying to work out all the issues I was having before. I think it was an OBS thing. I think just the new update to the version 29 was not happy with my setup. So hopefully it continues to work. Nope, it's dropping again. I don't know if I'm having... This looks like network issues to me. I don't think this is a computer thing. Hold on 1 second. Let me check my processes. Huh. Yeah, it looks like it might be a bandwidth issue. I'll have to double check that. This is an old computer, and I think that part of my issues have been actually bandwidth of what this card can handle. So that's one other thing I need to upgrade is the some of the bandwidth stuff, some of the connectivity of this computer. Anyways, seems stable for a minute. So let's continue on. Like I was saying, so I want to convert this, oops, into a editable mesh. So object, and go to convert down here and mesh. So now if I hit tab, I can go in edit mode and you can see this horrendous mesh. This is very bad. It is not something I would recommend using. I mean, it looks great if it's just like, you know, as it is, but we're gonna be editing it. And yeah, anybody that this is like kind of, yeah, not a great not a great thing to work with. You can see all these triangles and these meshes connected. This is fine, like the edges, but the top pieces are not great. So let's see if we can fix that. One tool we can use is the modifier remesh tool. So in here, if we go to the remesh, you can see how lovely this is. Can bring actually down our voxel size until it somewhat resembles what we had. Though we're having some issues here where it's still connecting to itself. So if we bring it down far enough, you can see that that is no longer the case. And that looks a lot better. We can try out some of the different modes. Of course, these are all not working, but neither is block. So this is the thing with separating each of the letters, so you can do all these modifications separately. Now this isn't actually too bad. We could probably get away with this, but just for doing it the right way, I'm gonna actually separate these. So first step is actually, you may notice that they are, well, no, they're not connected. So as you can see, even though these are in the same, or they were in the same place, they're not physically connected to each other. There's a like they're overlapping, but they're not connected. That's what's giving us this really sharp edge. If we, well, it's already shaded smooth, but if we shade flat, you can see that that all looks flat. You can see each of those quads. And then if we shade smooth, typically if this was all connected, and you'll see it change here in a second, you would get a weird like edge, and that's what we're gonna do. Even though it's gonna look terrible, I'm gonna hit A and select all and do the command here, if I can do the right one. Vertices, I want to M. Okay, there we go. So M for merge, and we want to merge all of these by distance. So all those ones that are overlapping will then merge together. And so 906 vertices were removed. And now you can see that this looks absolutely terrible, because that smooth shading is now trying to smooth out those edges and make it seem like it's smooth, and that's not what we want. I guess we do eventually want this to be all smooth, but right now that's not what I want. So I'm going to select these, and we can actually hit P and separate by selection. I don't know a good like word for that. I don't know why P is the separation button, but it is. P for part. I don't know. That might be a good way to remember it. Most of the Blender shortcuts have some correlation to their function, but so now I have M. Let me go ahead and like name these up here. M. This is A. Not that I really need to, but just to be able to see them clearly up here. That is R, and this is Z. And then we have a random like text object here that doesn't have any mesh, so I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so let's go through the same process with these as we were trying to do before and see what we can get. So remesh. I actually kind of want to check out what the blocks look like. We have to go pretty far with that, but hey, that's kind of cool. I really like this block remesh. So if you're doing anything that's like, you know, voxel Minecraft style or whatever, you can get some really cool results with this modifier. So definitely a cool one to check out, but that's not quite what I'm going for. I need to make some voxel stuff, so or use the voxel remesher. So let's see how far I can get away with this. I think I'm gonna have to stick with that 0.1, so that's a good number to use though. Let me do the same on all of these. I think there actually is a way you can, I thought maybe you could, someone could probably tell me. I don't remember if there's a way to copy modifiers, but whoops, I don't think so. I think there is a way you can like right click them and duplicate their modifiers somehow. I cannot remember at this very moment how to do that. Like if you like copy the object or like link their data somehow. Anyways, it's good practice to go through. We know what our settings are. It's not too big of a deal. 101. And I can actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and, well, do I want to, let's see. If let's see what results we can get by just subdividing. This might be not a great idea. Oh, yeah, see, that's not the result I was looking for. So, let's just apply this real quick. I want to see what this looks like. I may end up having to sculpt. I was hoping I wouldn't have to, but just to get the kind of bubbly look I'm going for, there's definitely another way you could do this. You could build out this text manually, and like using the skin modifier, and that might actually be a better way to get the results that I'm kind of looking for. But I wanted to show off the text tool even though I'm not really using it now. But let's just go ahead with this method for the time being. So remesh, set this to that 0.01 and remesh, and the same for this one. Okay. So we know that we probably don't want to use the subdivide, but we can smooth without subdividing. So I'm just going to go ahead and apply it. Get rid of that, apply that, and apply that one. So let's use the smooth and see what kind of results that doesn't work. That very much doesn't smooth the way I thought it would. Let's try a different smooth, a corrective smooth. There we go. That's a little bit more what I wanted. We can keep, there we go. That's exactly what I wanted. So corrective smooth, just bring up the factor, repeat it a bunch of times until it's nice and smooth. I'm not too worried about the density of this. You know, it's pretty high resolution, but that's kind of going to give us more of the effect I think that we're looking for anyways. So let's do the same. Now I'm really curious if there is a way to duplicate modifiers. Let me look it up. Well, let's see, Blender, duplicate modifier. I know there is. I'm gonna copy modifiers. Use the shortcut Control L. Okay, let's see. So I'm assuming we need to select the ones that we want and then select the active one, Control L, link, copy modifiers. Hey, look at that. Sweet. So I don't know if these are all connected. No, it doesn't look like it. Actually, maybe turn the factor down a little bit on these, just to the point that they look good. And there we go. Cool. So the nice thing with them being separated is that I can adjust them. Let's actually fix their origin point, so I can just right click and set origin to geometry, and that just kind of centers it. Do the same for these, origin to geometry. Whoops, I did geometry to origin, but that's fine. Do the same with this one. There we go. The same over here. So when we split them, they're, for the text object, its origin point was still just at world center when we added it. So pretty easy to fix. Do geometry, and then let's bring this one like in here. Looks kind of cool. I don't know if we want to scale any of these up. Maybe the R and the M and the Z possibly. And just make sure that these are all apply their scale. So, you know, it's a pretty good habit to get into is checking your rotation and your scale and things. So, like all of these have different positions, but I can just go through and apply their rotations. Not a big deal, but it's just something to check. It's a big deal if you're doing armatures or any kind of physics stuff. You definitely want to be careful with your scales and rotations and things like that. So that looks pretty cool. Okay, so now let's get to the color part. So I was thinking at first when I saw some of the reference photos that Cory was showing me that they had some kind of fancy material on the text, but actually, in reality, the material that they used was just a highly reflective material, and the thing that was giving stuff color was the background. So I'll show you how to set this up. Let's switch over to, we may actually have to do this in cycles. So, of course, to change to cycles, by default we're in Eevee, so let's just switch to cycles, get my GPU render going so I'm not messing up the stream. Probably could tell there for a second that it like tried to slow down. Probably don't want this in preview mode. So I'm considering actually rejoining these all together just so we don't have to deal with assigning the materials. But now we know how to link stuff, so let's use that. So in our materials tab here, we can go ahead and I'm just going to use the default material that was in. It doesn't matter, you can make a new one. But all I'm really going to do is set the metallic value all the way up so that this is a metallic reflective surface. I want to make sure that these are shaded smooth too, just while we're sitting here. And you can see that sort of looks a bit shiny, and I'm also going to bring my roughness pretty much all the way down. I could probably get away with a little bit more just to keep some, so it's not totally mirror-like. And then let's do our old sharing of the materials, and I didn't see it in here, link materials, there we go, sweet. I'll have to remember that. I, for some reason, have gone through years of Blender with not ever really using that, so that's super useful. Always learning something new. So now that we have this, you can see in our material preview, there is a HDR texture going on in this space. So you can see like it actually reflecting stuff. Of course, if we go into our own view, we don't have anything like that. So this is Blender is definitely not the best thing to do while streaming, but we'll make it work. So let's add our own background. So this is actually where we get the color from. So I've got a few different options. And to do this, we want to go into our world little globe here. There's another way you can get to it, but this is probably the easiest. This little red globe, clicking on color, and we want to add an environment texture. Now it doesn't have to really be anything special. I'm actually just going to use, I could use an HDR texture, which I had downloaded one. Let's just try it with this first. bring that one in. You could get these from HDR Polyhaven. They have HDR textures. They have all sorts of models and just regular textures and stuff like that. Definitely recommend checking that out if you need some free resources. But with this now, if we go to our own view, we should be able to see that this is reflecting this environment to a point. Let's try this with Eevee just to see if we can get some extra performance out of it. Of course, we're still going to get some reflections, but we can actually turn on a bunch of the Eevee settings, like the screen space reflections, so that they reflect each other. I think that may actually be, we could do some ambient occlusion if we wanted, even some bloom. Why not? We don't really need ambient occlusion. I think that's probably pretty good. Give it a little bloom so it kind of glows. Of course, now the thing is we can see the background in our shot. And maybe we want this to be like a logo or something over another object or over another design. So it's kind of hard to find, and I wish they put it in a easier place to locate. But underneath film down here, and you're still in our render tab, there is a little button called transparent. And if you click on that, that gets rid of your HDR texture in the background, but still leaves you with how, like, the color that it adds to your scene. So you can, render your scene without worrying about that. And most of the time, you're gonna have this in a set or something, or like have a, say, let's just add a plane that's almost like a backdrop in a photo studio. I like to do this, just add a little bevel and make sure this is shaded smooth, and we can scale it this way a bit and this way a bit, and then maybe a bit more on the X, and then just in edit mode, I'm going to slide it down a little, and then now it's sort of the background. And if we had a camera in here, of course, we would then have a good kind of backdrop for this. And I don't have any lights, so there's not going to be any shadows, but if we were to render this, we should just get the view of it. So this isn't exactly what the references were. The references were a bit more colorful. So the cool thing with environment textures is you don't have to use an HDR texture to make them work. You can use a regular PNG or a JPEG to make this work. So I got two different ones. I've got this one. Let's try this one first. Open that up. And you see right away, you get more of that result. This is very similar to what those, I'm actually going to hide this because we lose some of our, I would recommend just like not having a backdrop and just taking this in and making this like putting this over like a flat background in post, like taking it into Photoshop or something. All right, camera. We just go into the properties panel. I just want to make this, zero this out, and then make the rotation. Oh, we gotta rotate it. Oops. What am I doing? There we go. Oh, 0, 0, 0 is already facing the way I want it to. Cool. And then let's just grab it, move it up a little bit. Cool, perfect. So that gives us that look. We can modify this a few different ways. We can up the strength, and that actually adds that sort of glow to it, so that bloom effect is kind of coming back through. We can bring it down if we wanted it more darker. We can change a few more things, but we need to actually go into our material mode, shader editor here, and go switching this. It's a little bit difficult to find if you don't know where to start. So shader editor, just think about it like it's another shader. So in here, of course, if we click on one of these, we have, this is our shiny or our reflective material. But if we want to affect the world, we got to go into world, and then we get this menu with the background. You do need this background node, and then here's our environment texture. So we can control this a little bit. If we add in a texture coordinate, and then I always forget the name of the other one, mapping. Yeah. So if we use this mapping node and then take, hopefully this works, yeah, the generated vector, and then we should be able to rotate some of these colors around and actually change the design that we get based on where this is at. So, you know, you can kind of modify your colors by changing this, and you could animate this too if you wanted to, which could be some really cool results. You could have it go fully, you know, 360 around, so 0 to 360, and you could essentially create a really cool little looping animation if you wanted to. So yeah, so those should be the same. Actually, let's set that up just so we can see it, since we got plenty of time. So just go onto our timeline. I'm just gonna add in, so pretty much any value in Blender, you can overlap and hit I on the keyboard. So I'm just gonna do this with the X rotation. It does it for the whole rotation, but I just keyed that in. And then if I go now to frame, let's make this a little faster, 100. I'll make my end frame 100. And I do want to make sure, I don't want to go full 360, otherwise I'm going to have a duplicate 360 because I'm at 0, so I want, so 0 is the same as a 360, so I want 359, and hit enter, and hit I, key that in, make sure it's yellow. Now, even though I can't see the keyframes here, I probably could see it if I went to, I think I'll probably see it on Dope Sheet. No, not sure where it actually hides these. Sometimes the like really obscure ones are in certain menus. I can't remember where they put it at. Drivers maybe? No, drivers are a different thing. Yeah, I can't remember where they hide these. But anyways, it should work. Yeah, and it does work. So there you get kind of a cool effect. So of course, one of the issues we're having is that it's slowing and speeding up when it starts and stops. So I actually do need to find where they put these at. So that might be good to check and see. I'm surprised it's not in the Dope Sheet. Usually you can find almost everything in here. Not grease pencil, not masks. I have the drop downs. I don't know if it's something that's like hidden. Show seconds. Maybe we can actually find it in the graph editor, because that's what we need to get to anyways. Aha! Clicking on the map, or the mapping node, gives it to you. So you can see here that this like ease in and ease out. Let me see if I can get a better look here. I don't. Oops, no, I want this to zoom, please. There, oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, so you can see how this is, you know, easing in and easing out. So I just want these to be a straight line. So hitting V, you can do vector, and that just gets rid of any kind of easing. So now, if I hit spacebar, this should loop pretty much, well, it should be totally seamless. And then you have a cool little colored animation. So the neat thing with this is that if I wanted to change this and put something different, like if I had another image, for instance, which I happen to have downloaded one. I've got this other one that kind of has this like a different shapes on it versus like this other one that's kind of just, you know, almost like an oil painting kind of thing. So let's try this one. Very similar, a little bit more like, a little bit more muted, I guess. But you can kind of see those shapes on the edges where it's flatter. And like look at this from the side, you can probably really see them. Yeah. Gives a very cool result. It's actually really neat. So of course in cycles, this would look a lot better. I'm kind of afraid to switch it to cycles because we might lose some, we might drop some more frames on OBS. So there are a few ways we could probably improve this. Let's see if we can affect our screen space reflections here. Maybe turn on refractions. That doesn't seem to do much. Affect some of the other settings. Max roughness. Oh yeah, that definitely changes something. Keep that low. Edge fading. Well, that helps a little bit. You can kind of see what I'm looking at here. There's like these kind of little artifacts going on. You can sort of fade those away. How does we turn this off? It really doesn't. I think it's the screen space is just like the other objects. You may not even need this because it's really only reflecting itself in this. So if you want to keep it simple, this looks still really good to me, and you don't get the extra stuff. So it's just, that's mostly for reflecting other objects in the scene. So if you have a mirror with a character looking into it or something, you would have to turn that on. Otherwise, it would just reflect the environment. Yeah. So let's see, what else can we change? We could probably, let's go and mess with the material. So we go to Object. Of course, we can get all our settings here. So right now I have metallic turned up, but what if I take this off and then turn the roughness down? What kind of effect do we get? You kind of get a really cool, like, muted sort of look. Of course, you can change the base color and really give it like a certain like color scheme if you want to. And then you sort of have more of a, you can actually see where it's spinning and where the seams are on the texture though. So if you're worried about that, of course, if you're looking at it from, you know, the camera view here, you won't see that. Since it's spinning on the x-axis, which should be this way, although in world space, yeah, you can kind of see what's happening. It is really just like spinning the texture around in space. I think we could probably see that if we turned off transparency. Yeah, it's pretty cool though. You can see where it connects. So you may want to get a seamless texture for this, just so if you did, you wouldn't get, you wouldn't be able to see these like these lines here where the edges of the picture are. So that's one thing to note. If you're using something like, actually it's not on here, but if you're using something like the dream texture, I think I maybe messed with it. No, actually I don't think I did on stream because it's not, this computer can't handle it. If you got a beefy computer that can handle it though, using dream texture, which is the AI generative thing that's built into Blender, you can have it generate you seamless textures and then plug it into something like this, and you could create some really cool designs that way. So, and it has a mode that you can just turn on by default for it to generate you a seamless texture, and it usually does a really great job at it too. So let's see what else can we change in here. If we just set this back, generally in the same area. Of course, that metallic really gave it that look. You could up specular. Of course, you could add a light to this scene if you wanted to, but I really like this Yeah, it looks cool. Don't really use sheen, but see, you can still see sometimes where the seams are, like right there, which is not too bad. Definitely depending on which way you rotate this, you know, you could get different effects. You could add an emission if you wanted to, make it glow. Yeah, some pretty cool stuff. So that's a lot of what I had to show today. What else could we add to this that would make it cool? You could probably, I wanted to take it into cycles and see what it looked like, but I'm afraid that doing that might mess up our little streaming setup here. So let me pause this animation. And let's see what other kind of like modifiers we could add to this. So let's try, we've got our corrective smooth. I could probably actually apply these. Let's just apply these. Apply. It's already looking really cool. I like this one with this sort of geometric shapes almost better than the other one. Yeah, definitely need something that's seamless though. I can see a lot of where a lot of issues would pop up here. I don't like that I can see the seams, but I'm gonna worry about it right this second. Hold on one second. Turn my little heater off. It's too warm in here. So let's try some other modifiers. Maybe we can connect something up with our animation here. I know there's things like the warp, I think. We may be able to, I haven't messed with this one in a while. I can play with some of these other modifiers and see if we can create some interesting stuff. Oh, this is the one that you can actually warp from one object to another. I forgot about that. Maybe this is not exactly what we want. How about wave? Let's see, what does this do? Oh yeah, there we go. This is a fun one. You can make it cycle. So the cool thing with these is that you could plug this into a sound file, and even just like giving it, attaching the sound file to something like the height of it would kind of bring it alive a little bit. So you could probably change the timing, change at what speed this happens. It's a little bit intense. That's pretty cool. Let's see if we can copy this over. Same way, we're just gonna copy the modifiers. So they're all in sync right now. They're kind of overlapping. So let me move these around so they don't do that. Then we can like slightly adjust the speed of each of them so they're a little bit different. Maybe we'll do 0.4 on this one and 0.05 on this one. I guess the only issue with that is then they don't loop correctly. So maybe that's not a great idea. There's probably a way to get them to stay in sync, but yeah, you see they're kind of like jumping back to, don't want that. 0.05. Maybe were they doing that beforehand too? I don't remember doing that before. Did I change a setting in here that like... I just like didn't notice it when it was going faster. It's harder to tell. It's like a heartbeat. It reminds you of a heart. It's kind of a little bit freaky. There must be a speed at which it's, hold on, let's see what the defaults were. Wave. No, it does, it doesn't actually loop. So I wonder, has a lifetime. I wonder if there's a way that you could get it to, oh, that's kind of cool. You could do different. It's too fast though. So let's go back to like, there's a certain point where it is looping. We could probably find it and slow this down, and like probably easier to match our frame rate to, or like our frame range to the loop than it is to figure out what speed it has to go to actually line up. I want to like copy these over now. Like get rid of those modifiers and copy the new ones over. I'm going to do this like wave thing. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's really cool. Cool. All right, so we want to watch it and see what the cycle is, because it should just keep going, but it's longer than what we have set up here. So let me go back to my timeline and expand this a bit. So it's close, it's really close. No, too far. Is it like 120 maybe? Hey, that looks... Yeah, that looks pretty solid. Okay, and then we can just move this so that that lines up right at the end too. Then we don't lose any. Hey, that's pretty cool. Kind of a new thing for me. I don't do a lot of this sort of like experimental blending very often. So this is a pretty cool little project. I might actually like render this out. This would be a fun stream intro thing. So what you could do, if you wanted to, is take this and render it. Of course, I probably shouldn't render while I'm streaming, but maybe I'll do that and have it ready for the next one so that I can show you guys how it turned out. It's pretty neat. Yeah, so you can, you could go in, you could add some lights to this. It's not gonna do a whole lot because it is, we're not casting any shadows really, as you can tell. Like this does nothing really. A lot of the environment light is kind of taking over. Even if I crank this up, like I'm not getting anything from the light. So it even looks cool from the side. Could probably have these like sync up where one goes after the other. That's a really fun modifier. I think that it has a lot of use cases for this kind of like procedurally generated stuff. I know that people are getting into doing this with like the geometry nodes, and I have not even hardly dived into all the awesome stuff that people are doing with that. I have to take some time to sit down and use it. I haven't, like I said, I don't do a whole lot of this sort of generative kind of artwork with Blender. A lot of times I'm doing characters or more animation stuff. So this is a little bit out of my normal wheelhouse when it comes to 3D graphics, but it is something that I want to get into more in practice. It just all takes time, and the geometry nodes are kind of terrifying to me. There's so much to them. Those of you out there that haven't had a chance to use them, there are some really good tutorials though. Definitely recommend checking that stuff out. I don't even know how you start with these, but it's a whole nother thing. There's a lot of different things you can add in here. You can do all the color stuff. You can do stuff with curves and generating geometry. I've seen some pretty awesome stuff. I think that the main thing that will probably get me into learning this will be like doing environments and things like that. So I've seen some tutorials with people using it to like generate fields of grass and populating a landscape with trees and bushes and rocks and stuff like that. Definitely useful tools, because typically you'd have to use like the particle system emitter stuff, or the hair emitters or something like that, and it's not always the most like user-friendly experience. And I think this has a lot more options and functionality when it comes to, you know, really getting into all the different settings and stuff like that. It reminds me a lot of some of the features that you find in like Unreal Engine and stuff like that. Although I do like their, you know, just environment building system a lot better, because it's just a paint in place kind of thing where you know, you set up a paintbrush that just can paint on, you know, all the wildflowers and all the grass and all the stuff, and it sort of just randomly picks out things for you. That makes it super easy. But this, you know, it's a little bit more technical, and definitely takes some time to get used to. I have not the first clue where to even start with it, so maybe I'll dive in a little bit and try to do a short little video on it at some point. But yeah, well, this was pretty cool. I actually ended up with something that we could probably use. Maybe I'll do a render and post it on Instagram and stuff so everybody can see how it turned out. Cool little looping animation. All right, well, getting close to our hour, so I guess I'll run our little end thing, and then we'll be back next week. I do think that our little end video actually has the wrong time on it, so I need to go and update that. So disregard the timing if you see that on there. Like I said, we are moving officially to Fridays at 5. This is our new time. You'll also find us on Access Humboldt, I believe channel 12, if I remember correctly. Either way, if you got cable at home, you can watch us on the TV, where you can stream us on YouTube. So keep an eye out for the new stuff. Like I said, we'll probably be doing some fun new things on here. Definitely trying to build it out some more and get some more students involved with the production, so should be pretty fun. All right, well, it was good hanging out, and we'll see you all next Friday for another exciting episode of the MARZ live stream. They're cool. Catch you later.